Okay, it is working this time. Last time the mic wasn't working, but it's working this time. Okay, awesome. What is up, everybody? This is Seth Keneep, Keeping It Real. I do not have a fancy YouTube title. I'm just going to go straight in and share with you what I've been learning. So as many of you guys know, we've been building a new business. We started, our official launch date was October the 1st. And for the first month and a half, it was hard. Like we were just grinding and grinding every day with just about no results at all. But then we started getting a trickle of sales and started seeing results. And to date, we have closed $25,500 in sales. And that was October 1st. And this is a brand new company and a startup. And I know that's not like an amazing amount of money, especially when you look at business expenses, but we went from no company, no money, no staff, no systems, no website, and generated a quarter of 100K. So we are on the right track and we're starting to get momentum to a point where people are starting to refer us to other people and we're being reached out to people we've never spoken to. I just got a message from one of our recent clients who are doing 9,000 with us. And he said, here, give me 1 second. Let me go to the text. It's him and his wife. And here we go. Okay. She said, we also want to refer you to a friend of ours. How would you like us to do that? Now, keep in mind, this couple was referred to us by someone that my business partner met at BXN, who is a fractional CFO. The point I'm making is this: when you build a business and you just start and you keep going, sometimes you're not going to see any results and it's freaking hard and you just have to keep pushing. But at some point, that momentum starts to pick up and it picks up. And the more you see it, the more encouraging it is. I was up at 4:17 this morning because I was so excited just to get started. And so now we're making it happen. I'm going to share something really cool with you guys. I'm going to share my screen. I want to show you the 7 questions that I ask that are helping us to close sales. And they have been very effective so far. So check this out, guys. You'll see included in this, there's a tier section down here. I'm not going to get into that today. I just want to walk you through these 7 questions. This is when someone is interested in what we have. So they said, hey, Seth, hey, Ron, I'm interested in what you have to offer, and they want to book a meeting. That meeting shows up on Zoom. It is 45 minutes. And I usually begin the call, just say, hey, how are you doing? Where are you from? Where are you calling from? Just very little amount of small talk. And then we go straight into it. Hey, here's what I would like to do. I'm going to ask you some questions. And then after I understand exactly what you're looking for, I'm going to share with you our services and what we do. How does that sound? And that's what I like to call setting the agenda. That's how you control the conversation, is you explain what you want to do, but then you always ask them, how does that sound? And of course, they're not going to be a jerk and say no. They're going to be like, yeah, that sounds good. So not only are you getting them to be in the mindset of, hey, Seth is going to lead this conversation, so I'm taken care of, which is exactly what you want, but you're asking a question so that they engage with a yes. And that really sets you up for a strong sale. And by the way, when I get to the end of these questions, you're going to find you don't have to have like all these special little tricks and ways to get them to agree. You literally just follow a methodical process, do it sincerely, and it freaking works. So first, I start with the pain question after setting the agenda. And this is typically said like this: what is your biggest concern regarding estate planning? Everyone on planet Earth suffers pain, and more than once a day. And people are constantly doing things to relieve themselves of that pain, which is why I like to call it, what pain are you trying to relieve? That's what I'm really asking, is what pain are they trying to relieve? So I'm going to ask, hey, what's your biggest concern? And immediately they tell me. One of the guys we talked to 3 days ago, he said his answer was, there have been 3 people in my family who've died just recently. 3 people, not his immediate family, but like his extended family. And that made him realize, if I don't get an estate plan before I'm old, if I die suddenly, my family is going to go through the horrors of probate court. So by me asking that question, it helped him to tell me what he needs. And guess what I'm going to do with that? I'm going to position my product as the solution to that pain. That's why it's so important that you ask questions. I have worked with so many salespeople, and salespeople in general feel like they have to talk to fill up the void, to fill the space. You don't sell by talking. You sell by listening and solving. It's sort of like the difference between a lawyer and a business person. And this is part of the reason I think lawyers suck at sales in general. This is why they're always looking for people who can market for them. Lawyers are built on the premise that I make money by creating problems. The more upset the wife and the husband are with each other, the more they're going to need me, the more hours I'm going to bill in their divorce. The bigger the problem that the company has going down, the more I'm going to try to get people upset at it so they can sue so I can make more money in litigation. And litigation is where the real money's at. But on the other hand, a business person, they're not going to make money unless they're solving a problem. Like if I don't have a problem with my water bottle, why would I buy yours until I see your ad and realize, wait a minute, this thing really does suck. Oh my goodness, there's mold collecting here. How do I get rid of that? Mold's really bad. This recent awareness of mold in the world, how do I get yours solves this? See, you're solving a problem. So because of that, if you understand the problem they have, you'll position your product as the solution. And if you're thinking, well, Seth, what if it's not really the solution? Then you have the wrong lead. That means something's wrong in your marketing. If I'm talking about estate planning, I'm never going to talk about estate planning without talking about the problems without it. Otherwise, why would I talk about it? People need to know the problem. That's why bad news sells. But you need to understand the problem. Otherwise, how can you help them? And that brings me to the second question I ask. What are your primary goals for an estate plan? So if the previous question up here, the pain question, was about trying to help relieve their pain, the goal question is, what are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? Now, sometimes you're going to find their answer to this question is the same as their answer to the pain question. But the reason I still ask it is because it always uncovers, or almost always uncovers, something else that they're struggling with. So for example, I'm talking to this young guy, and usually it's older people who are thinking about estate planning, but this guy's young. And he goes, the goal I'm trying to solve is I own multiple properties, multiple hotels, and I want to increase my supplemental income. I want to lower my tax liability, and I want to make sure a good plan is in place for my children when I pass. So these are his goals. These are things he wants to accomplish, but because his time is very valuable, he would rather pay someone well to do that work for him so he can keep working on his business. Because if he stops working on his hotels and his estate, real estate investing, and he focuses on trying to build his retirement plan, what's going to happen? Not only is it going to take him far longer than us because we're the experts, he's not, but now he's not making money anymore. Why not pay someone to do it faster? He will end up with more money because the time he would have lost by doing it himself is time he gets to keep making money doing what he is best at. It's the same reason trade works internationally. You have a country in South America who makes absolutely amazing wine. And it's actually often more efficient for us to buy that and import it into the US and lower costs than to buy it from someone in the Napa Valley in California. Why is that? Because they are so optimized and so good at it in South America that in spite of the shipping costs and the import fees, it actually is lower cost to import it into the US. The same is true here. You are trading services based on someone's expertise. So if you are an expert at your product, what you're doing is you're saying, hey, Bobby McGee or Lucy Pickleberry, the businesswoman, I can save you money and save you time. Pay me to do what I'm good at so you can keep doing what you're good at. And that is why this question is so effective. When you understand their goal, instead of it being like this, here's the prospect, here's you. Ooh, can I get them to buy? Oh, I don't know. Can I really trust them? Man, come on. What do I need to say next? I'm nervous. I don't know. Do I really trust? Instead of it being like that, you're coming alongside them. Now you're partnering with them and you're working with them, helping them with your goals, which is why you don't feel like you're selling. You're just helping them with the natural next step. Okay, and that brings me to the third part. Now, this part is not a question, but it's so important. You need to stack the risk. Listen, the only reason I would give you money in return for you giving me a product or some kind of service is because the risk is greater if I hold on to my money than if I trade it. That trade has to reduce the risk for me, the risk of my life, the risk of what I'm doing. If it's worth it for me to spend, $6,000 so you can build my estate plan, that's better than the government taking, and on average, it's $20,000 per probate course or per probate case. On average, from sea to shining sea in the US, when you go to probate court because you don't have a trust, you can have a will, you'll still go to probate court, but you didn't fund that trust. On average, the government will take $20,000. So if they're going to pay me $6,000 instead of spending $20,000, well, that is definitely a good risk, a risk reduction. That is a good trade. That reduces the risk. This is why it's so important that you talk about the problem. Most salespeople and business owners, especially when they're new, and I've been guilty of this many times, is they want to talk about how great their product is. You want to hear something interesting? No one gives a damn about how great your product is. All they care about is, does your product solve a problem for them? That's it. That's the only thing that matters. Let me make sure this is still running. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to bring you now to the next. So one more time, just to be clear, stacking the risk is where you talk about what they are going to lose, what the problem is. Here's the problem. If you're nervous about this part and like, okay, let's just say you sell water bottles that reduce the mold on the lip of the cup. If you're nervous about saying, man, you're going to get sick from the mold, you're not, and that sounds like you're being manipulative, just say, the reason we are in this industry is we discovered a problem. Did you know that over 80%, I'm just making this up off the top of my head, by the way, 80% of all water bottles have mold inside, and that mold can be destructive after years and years of ingesting it into the body. It can literally destroy someone and shorten their life. And that's why we're in this industry. See what I just did? I didn't make you feel pressured. I just educated you on a very big problem that most people are probably not aware of. And honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if what I said is pretty close to the truth in light of the problems with mold today. So you want to stack the risk after, like, literally sit down and write a list of all the biggest problems in the industry you're in. I'll give you an example. One of my students, he does purpose-driven wealth. He teaches people how to save, how to get rid of their debt, and how to invest. How do you do that in a purpose-driven, Christ-centered way? He's a Christian, so he wants to do it as a steward. Well, in order for someone to buy his product, he needs to talk about problems with debt. Did you know that the buy now, pay later options today have increased debt in the billions in just the last couple of years? And did you know that in just the last 3 months, over 50%, this is true, by the way, of Gen Zs are late on at least one of their payments, which means it immediately kicks an interest rate that they never had before? And do you know what that means long-term? How much little money they have or negative money they'll have had they made a wiser decision and invested that money? See what I just did? I stacked problem on top of problem. Now, let me put it this way. The bigger the problem is that you present to your prospect, the more desirable your product is. That's it. And you don't have to like exaggerate it or stretch it. You just state the facts because you live in this world. Just tell them and share your story and how it impacted you negatively. And that brings me to the catch-all question. Now, this one feels very redundant because you've already been talking to them. You've already asked 2 big questions. And did you notice none of these questions are super specific about the technical details of their situation? Like, I didn't say, do you have a will? Who are your beneficiaries? Who is your executor? How many times have you tried? Like, I don't get into those details. Those details are for post-sale. I just want to know about the problem they're dealing with and what they're trying to accomplish. That's how you sell. If you start moving into just educating them on how to do it, you're no longer being persuasive. You're being educative, if that's a word. And that's not where you want to be. That's not how you sell. So the catch-all question goes like this. Is there anything else you can tell me that will help me help you? And I'm blown away at how many times someone tells me something that is critical for me to know, like that I had no idea. Like this one lady who said that her dad died. She was like in her 80s. Sorry, not her dad. Her husband died. He spent, it was like $29,000 in probate fees. And that's why she was so urgent. Now that she told me that, what am I going to do? I'm going to remind her of that pain later on when I position my product so that you don't have to go through what your husband went. Let's get this set up for you. See how that is? She's showing me how to convince her. Okay, now you get to the next question, which is urgency question. This is an awesome question. Here's why. By the way, I got this question from a book called Spin Selling. In my opinion, it's the best book on sales today. Why are you looking to do something about this now? Like, why now? What's specific? What's special about right now? The reason this is so powerful is it will uncover the urgency, which is why I call it the urgency question, in their heart. And when you understand, remember when I said earlier, I talked to this guy and he said 3 people in his family died or in his extended family died recently. That's massive urgency. It was so heavy when he said it. I just kind of paused a little bit. I didn't know exactly how to respond because my business partner and I deal in the realm of death all the time, but this was heavy. And he was kind of negative, to be honest. Like seemed to be down on life. This is what is pushing him to do something about his estate plan. It took the death of 3 people to get him to see that. But that's still really good information because when I present my product, I'm now going to talk about the risk without it. Yes, we all die someday. He rides a motorcycle, by the way. One wrong turn, one drunk driver, one stupid driver, one person on their cell phone, boom, you're dead. And what's going to be left for your family? What's going to happen to them when they're all shuffled into probate court for 6 to 24 months and the government takes a big piece of their estate? See what I just did? I used what he told me in order to show him that my product can solve that 100%. These next 2 questions are similar, but these are powerful because it helps them to persuade them. Yes, you want to be persuasive in sales, but the best person to persuade them is themselves. Cost question number 1. If you don't follow through on your estate plan, how would that impact you personally? Oh man, well, that means my wife would not know what to do. She'd probably have to hire a lawyer and spend a bunch of money to figure out the next steps because I didn't set up a plan. It means my kids will probably end up in probate court someday, especially if she dies and we still don't have a plan. It means we may lose a lot of money because a judge is going to make decisions. If you have minors, a judge decides who watches my kids. A judge who doesn't know me, a judge who doesn't care about me, he makes that decision. See what that does? It's emphasizing the cost. You're basically saying, hey, Bobby, what are you going to lose if you don't do something about this? Get him to think about it. Get him to convince himself. And then you do what's called the ripple effect. Cost question number 2. Who else would be impacted by you not completing this? In other words, it isn't just me it's going to affect. It's going to affect my wife. It's going to affect my kids. What about my parents? What about my uncle, my nephew, my business partner? See what's happening here? You're helping him to think of all the costs that extends out to other family members. And then I say, let me share with you what we do and how it works. These questions have helped. I'm going to add them to the description of the video when I'm done here, have helped me so much. It's allowed us to close $25,000 and $25,500 since October 1st. Again, I know that's not like a huge amount, but as a brand new company, it's exciting. Like we're starting to see the momentum. All right, guys, I hope you find this super helpful. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I will continue to share content on here and share with you how it's going as we build out our company. And you have an amazing day. And if you like this video, thumbs up it and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Have an awesome day.